Hi, I'm Abby Kaler. I'm the author of Undone, a true story of sex, murder, and utopia at the dawn of World War II. My book tells the stranger-than-fiction true story of a group of people who fled Germany in the late 1920s and early 1930s to try to build a utopia on a remote Galapagos island called Floriana. Now, they were fleeing civilization because Adolf Hitler was coming to power, the Weimar Republic was falling, Wall Street had crashed, the global economy was suffering everywhere, and they thought they could escape all of the problems of civilization and find paradise in this remote island. Of course, things did not quite work out that way, and I like to call this story Charles Darwin meets Agatha Christie because not everybody gets out alive. I've been wanting to write this book about 12 years. The paperback is just out on August 5th. And coincidentally, Ron Howard had the same obsession with this story for quite some time. And he has a movie coming out called Eden. It'll be in theaters August 22nd. Now, Ron Howard's Eden is based on the true story, but my book is actually the true story. There's no invented dialogue in here, no invented events. Everything is from the historical record. And I had the benefit of hundreds of never before published papers and documents and archives and photographs. But I want to watch Ron Howard's trailer right now and just give some context and backstory on the dramatization and the true story in Eden and Eden Undone.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are the very definition of survival of the fittest.
To those who dare to dream.
Dr. Ritter, your story inspired us to leave everything behind.
So this scene is showing Daniel Bruhl and Sydney Sweeney, who are playing the characters of Margret and Heinz Wittmer, and they're coming to pay their respects to Friedrich Ritter, who is played by Jude Law. All of these were interesting characters, but I think Friedrich Ritter was probably the most interesting. He was a Berlin doctor and a self-stylized philosopher. He fancied himself the successor to Nietzsche. And he was a World War I veteran who suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder, and I was actually able to speak with his great-grandnephew quite a bit about his personality and the sort of trauma that he had suffered and how that affected him after the war. And he left his spouse to be with his patient, a woman named Dore Strauch, who was played by Vanessa Kirby. Now, Dore suffered from multiple sclerosis in real life, and I know that Vanessa Kirby does use a cane in the movie, so that is historically accurate. And Dore believed it was her calling in life to spread Friedrich's philosophical ideas around the world. And he was so serious about his island experiment that he actually had all of his teeth removed and replaced with a set of steel dentures. He did not account for the fact that his gums would shrink and the teeth would not stay in. There was quite a bit in the historical record about people remarking on Friedrich's teeth. And so here in this scene, Margret and Heinz Wittmer are coming to pay their respects to Friedrich Ritter, who by this time, and this is about 1932, was famous throughout the world for going to live on Floriana. And the couples disliked each other immediately. Margret, was 5 months pregnant at this time, and Dore looked at her and said, what kind of idiot would have a baby on a remote island? Why would somebody choose to do that? And Margret looked at Dore and said, what kind of weirdo quotes Nietzsche on a remote island? What is the point? And so the couples would start off with this great animosity, but the relationship would change quite a bit as time went on and other players came into the scene.
Let's start anew.
Trust me. By this time next year, one of us will be gone.
So here is another player that comes on the scene. This is the Baroness. Her real name was Antonia Wagner von Werborn-Wasket. She's from Vienna. And all of the old stories about her and even old nonfiction sources say that she was pretending to be a baroness, but I discovered that she actually was a true baroness, bequeathed to her from her grandfather who earned the title of baron. And she is played by Ana Armas in the movie, and let me just say that the real character got quite the Hollywood glow up with Ana Armas. And she's my favorite character, and she's such a polarizing figure. She shows up on the island with two male lovers and a gun on her hip, And she immediately announces that she wants to turn Floriana into the next Miami. You know, everybody else around here wants solitude, they want to get away from civilization, but no, the Baroness wants to turn Floriana into the next Miami. And so everybody disliked her right away. And in the scene, it seems that she's subtly threatening Friedrich Ritter with murder, which was kind of interesting. They had a very antagonistic relationship. But I also discovered through my research that the relationship also could have been romantic at times, or at least sort of a hateful passion. If you want to check out this photograph I found in the archives at the University of Southern California, which was never published before, I think it kind of offers pretty definitive proof that these two had some complicated and possibly romantic feelings toward each other. Of course, that would only change as time went on too.
I personally hope it's not you.
We hunt. We fight. We kill.
So we hunt, we fight, we kill. This is an invented dialogue. It doesn't appear anywhere in the record, but it does a really good job of showing the relationship between Friedrich and Dore, who also were volatile with one another. Some days they were a devoted couple, and other days they wanted to kill each other. Friedrich was quite cruel to Dore, especially with her physical limitations. She was suffering from multiple sclerosis, and he told her that she was making herself sick, that she chose to be sick, and she could choose to cure herself if she wanted to. The animosity that Dore had toward Friedrich would continue to grow until she, in a way, sought her own revenge.
They're trying their best to ruin us. They won't, because we are a family.
You're a traitor.
So here we are with Sydney Sweeney as Margret Wittmer saying we are family. And I think that this is very true to the real story. Margret and Heinz were the most solid couple on the island. Eventually, the Baroness becomes such a problem that Margret and Heinz have to join forces with Friedrich and Dore to seek help from the governor and to try to, say the Baroness is going to kill all of us. The island is going to cease to exist because of what the Baroness is doing. It sort of becomes a real problem, and the old enemies have to quickly make friends with one another and figure out what they're going to do.
I will not let you destroy us.
Shut up!
So here's a lot of great scenes hinting at the violence that's going to come in the story, which is certainly true to the real life characters and situation as it unfolded. Unfortunately, there is no threesome with the Baroness and her two lovers or anybody else in the historical record, but one American visitor did describe her hotel as, quote, a festering sex complex. So I think that Ron Howard's dramatization there was more than fair. There we have Sydney Sweeney giving a fantastic scream, and I think this is the scene where Margret is giving birth, and it's really a harrowing scene. She was all alone. It was January 1st, 1933. Heinz was nowhere to be found. It's midnight. Wild animals were circling. There was a lot of wild animals on the island that these people had to contend with. And she's there alone, on her back, disoriented, not even knowing which way her house is, and giving birth. And, Sydney Sweeney gives a really fantastic portrayal of how that actually was for Margret. So there's nothing in the historical record about anybody being thrown off a cliff, but it is true that 2 people go missing and 2 people end up dead in this story. And to me, it really reminds me of the Agatha Christie novel, And Then There Were None. A bunch of people show up on a remote island, but not everybody makes it out alive. So I hope you enjoyed this trailer reaction, and I hope you read Eden Undone, the true story of this incredible episode in history, before you go see Ron Howard's movie Eden. And thank you, Dexter, my African gray parrot, for joining me, even though you didn't have much to say.